Good evening and welcome to Bridging the Gap BTG Magazine. We are here being a foundation of youth and strategy and everything. Welcome our wonderful host, co-host, Coach Ray,
No,
Dr. Net. How are we today? Happy August yet again.
we
How are
still in
you?
August, and it's going by.
We said
I said it's
fast.
going by fast. Like August is becoming a blur.
It is. And it feels like it used to feel when we were in school. Remember, August went really fast when it was time to go back to school?
Oh yeah,
I don't
because
think
we
that's
working in
changed
schools.
at all. Exactly. You go. There you go. That's the method to the madness. So we already know we're definitely needing to figure out this family balance
Hmm.
because it is real time. Saw something on the news today saying that the pools are closing tomorrow, the camps are closing tomorrow. So, what are we doing, coach? I know you're in the heat of literally getting your players and everyone back together, trying to get yourself organized, trying to get that
Yes,
balance. So, what's going on with that?
and so for me, it's recognizing where I can't do but so much, and where I
Mm,
need to do the most. So of course,
right.
as a coach, I'm required to be there. I'm required to give 120%, which is what I do. But
Hmm.
I also have to have the balance at home. So I say, like, me
Hmm.
and my wife, we went out of town last weekend to a wedding, and I was,
Hmm.
hey coach, I can't be at practice this week because I got to make sure the family's straight. Got back in town, had my
That's right.
daughter's ninth birthday dinner. So
Nice.
had to make sure got to take care of baby girl, got to take care of her. So it's the balance of scheduling and knowing what takes priority over certain things. So even this week coming up, next week coming up, we're going out of town again for her family
Hmm.
reunion, and it's like, of course I could have been like, well, I can't go, but what does that do? What does that doesn't present balance in the
Hmm.
home because I'm getting what I want, but then everybody's not getting what they want. Well, not let me not say want.
Exactly.
They're not getting what they need from me because I'm focused on what I want to do for me.
Right. And you're talking about one moment in time in a way. This is August, and of course, it is important that you're there for your students and for the players. But like you said, you're talking about once in a lifetime moments as well. Weddings, family reunions, birthdays, all of those things. Those are the things that your children cannot go back later on and say, you know, mom or dad wasn't there. There's that balance, and it often makes you think about what we've talked about even with ministry and family involved focus. You want children to know that they're the priority. The home is the priority because then everything else can focus in the way it needs to. The rest of this life balance that we do.
It's like working inside out, if that's so to speak, where the home is the nucleus, and you strengthen that, and you give that a balanced structure at home, and the structure
Hmm.
at home is strong. Then you can kind of branch out and start taking care of the surrounding things. So that's where the balance comes in, and I think where we have to understand
Hmm.
nowadays is that the home is the nucleus for everything else, which is what we once understood.
Hmm.
We once
Exactly.
understood that if home wasn't straight, nothing else was going to work. I remember that's something my mom used to say religiously to my dad. It's like, you can't play the role like everything's fine elsewhere if home ain't straight.
That's right. Definitely. And you know what you're talking about, literally values that
Hmm.
20, 30 years ago were the norm. And we don't have what we would call normal now when you're talking about family and balance. Whatever comes and presents itself as the most important thing, that's what usually rules the day. It is that thought process of the squeaky wheel gets the oil. But we can't operate like that in families. That's not going to work at all.
No, and as much as we think that people are okay with us doing our day to day, a lot of times they're not. They just get so accustomed to not saying
Mhm.
anything that
Right.
they just deal with it. because it's just the
Right.
normality. It's the formality of life. It's, well, he's just gonna do what he do, or she just gonna do what she do, and that's what it is. No, it's there has to be a level of balance to where each party in the house are getting what they need from each other, so that the balance can
Mm,
sustain.
right.
Once they One of the quotes that I heard is that if the actions in the place in if the actions in the environment aren't mutual, it doesn't exist.
Hmm. Right.
And it's true. If there is no mutual understanding, there's no mutual action, there's no mutual mindset in the responsibilities of the balance of the home, then nothing else works.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, do you talk to your players quite often about that as well? How do we as adults try to even instill that to make it even the priority for them? Because then you have young people that are doing everything that they're trying to do, and we as adults are trying to make sure there's the balance. But there's a video game, and this is what our friends are trying to do, and there's social media and all those different things. So how do you instill all of that into them to let them know, whether you're 12 in a household, 32 or 52 in this household, everybody plays a part. Everybody is a part of exactly that word you're using, that nucleus. And I love that. That's really important. And just even maybe them even understanding what that means. That's not just a word we use in science class.
No,
We
no, no,
understand
no.
nucleus.
That's a part of
Yeah,
structure.
right.
The center of anything is what holds it together. And we
Hmm.
know that there's different ways to acknowledge it. There's the main beam in a building. That's the nucleus.
Hmm.
That's where it's structured. That's where, if that one piece is removed, everything falls down.
Hmm.
So what I try to tell my players is that take care of home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you
Hmm.
go home, you make sure your part of the house is straight. You make sure your room clean. You make sure you take care of whatever your parents tell you to take care of. Then everything else is important after the fact. You know,
Right.
home. The way I tell them to order it is home, school, sports.
Hmm.
That's how I tell
Right.
them the order. That's the order. Home, school, sports. And so what we often are guilty of is giving them the mindset of placing importance on what we deem is important.
Right.
And as coaches, we have to understand that you are molding young adults. Whether you're coaching young men, young ladies, whomever, you're molding future young adults. So what
Hmm.
you instill in, because they hang on our every word as coaches. Let's just be honest. Let's just be real. Like, if they respect and they admire you, there's no wrong you can say to them. And so in that space, you have to be wise and you have to be intelligent as to what you're telling them to do and how you're telling them to operate. Yes, I
Hmm.
would love to say you should be 100% football. No, you are 100% your home. You're 100% your future. Football ain't the only thing in your life,
Exactly. You
you
know,
know. And
that's
I'm
one
sorry, I
thing.
mean, it's not, but I have a lot of kids who have jobs as well.
Right.
And I also tell them, don't overwork. You ain't got to overwork yourself. Enjoy being young. Enjoy being young, because you got your whole life to work. I'm not saying, because I
No,
know
you
some
do.
instances that you got some instances where some kids have to work. Like, that's their, that's how they gonna make this, how they gonna eat, whatever. I get it. But, outside of those outliers, there are kids who work just to work, and it's like you come to practice, you're here for 3 hours going hard at practice, and then you're going to
Hmm.
work for 5 hours after that, and you ain't even went home and did your homework. So now you got to stay up, do your homework, you got to clean up, you got to do all these things you got to do, only to get up for school again at like
That's right.
5:30.
That's right.
So I try to tell them, like, balance, take care of home first. If home and school ain't straight, then other things got to be erased. If that happens to be football, I'll still be there for you, whatever you choose to do. But we got to make sure home and school are straight first, because your future depends on, one, your parents being supportive of you,
That's right.
two, you being academically eligible for you to be able to do anything else like graduate, because that's a key in your life. Everything else is secondary.
That's important when you said that because you think about the fact they're only going to be children and they're only going to be kids once, whatever way they want to look at it. You have the rest of your life after 18. Hopefully, it's a long life to go ahead
Hmm.
and do all those things that you're trying to cram into this one little time period, one capsule. And then they observe adults, they observe their parents trying to make those same sacrifices, and they're thinking that they have to do all of that. So the time period you just talked about, that becomes 8 hours alone
Hmm.
if you look at it that way. And then they're wondering, why they are spent and they're not even literally out of their teenagehood at this point and everything. And then they often have that younger sibling that is also paying attention to how everything is
Hmm.
going in this household. And everybody's running, 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 but nobody's talking to each other. No one's listening
There's
to,
no conversations.
right.
There's no what do
Hmm.
high school going. Let's talk. And if it is, it's rare. It's
Right.
very rare because mom is running, dad is running, the siblings are doing whatever. Older siblings are kind of in their isolation mode. Um, and I know that because I grew up with two brothers,
Right.
and I had an older brother who went through his era of isolation,
Hmm.
and I went through my era of isolation, but I went through that era of overworking at a young age
Right.
and being isolated.
Hmm.
So I was never home, outside of sports seasons and things like that. I was always
Hmm.
gone. I worked my junior and senior year of high school. I worked.
Right.
My going
Likewise.
into the summer of my going into my senior year, I was working two jobs and playing basketball in the summer and get ready to get to football. So I was never home.
Right.
So I didn't, and I tell people all the time. I've even told my wife this. There's a huge chunk of my life that I didn't enjoy, or I didn't, and I said I didn't enjoy. Let me rewind. That I didn't get to have those enjoyable moments like a lot of people because I was
Right.
always working.
Right.
When my friends were going to Kings Dominion together, I was at work on that Saturday.
Right. Now
You
we remember
know,
where you grew up. Since you can use King's Dominion, how about that?
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, if my kids were like, "Yo, we going to Busch Gardens like, after prom. We going to Busch Gardens tomorrow." I gotta go to work. Then the
Hmm.
day after prom, I gotta go to work.
Yeah, it could work.
You
Exactly.
know,
Now, was that your choice? That's the
yes,
part too, and that's the part where we want to make sure when you're saying about balance, learning from those mistakes, because
yes.
now it's still a lifetime of working, but now you don't even remember some of what we would call the good times, the
I
teenagehood
don't.
life of hanging out with your friends and literally being a kid.
I
You
don't
know.
remember.
Hmm.
I don't remember those times. I remember, and you gotta think, I'm a teenager. I never called out of work as a teenager. The
Right.
one time I called out of work was because my one of my close friends was he was getting ready to graduate, and they had a going graduation party, and
Right.
so that was the one time I called out of work, and the first time I called out of work in like 3 years, and so and not saying that you should be calling out of work for anything, but
Of course.
taking that personal day just to be like, yo, like, I was working at Kmart, I was working in retail, so, but the choices I made then, I think, put me in a mindset later to where
Hmm.
I didn't know how to sit down. I didn't know how to stop.
Right. So what took that moment in time where you knew that's where it had to change? And this is important. That's why we're having this discussion, because we're hoping that people are hearing what we're saying, whether they're a parent or the child, the adult or the kid, whatever way you want to look at it. I'm being purposeful to use the verbiage that appeals to you.
Hmm.
When did you realize this has to stop? And hoping a young adult now is hearing us. Are you going
Uh,
too fast? Are you doing too much?
right.
Are you not
Uh,
enjoying who you are right now?
Three incidences, and the
Right.
third one is, and I'll go in order.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, honestly, I felt like my daughter was growing up without me in her presence. Like she was starting to grow up fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was around the time she turned 3 that I was just like, I don't, she
Mm.
don't. she know me like I'm her dad, but she don't like I'm gone. I see her probably like 2 nights a week, and I'm gone the rest of the week working. Now, granted, people can use the excuse of like, oh, I'm working, I'm trying to provide. But when does working to provide separate you from the things that you're supposed to be doing?
That's right.
So
And
that's the first one.
that's right.
Second one, I would say was second one was last summer
Okay.
when when me and my wife were on the brink of divorce.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, because I was never home. It was like, why are we married? She her exact words. One of the things she said, and straight up keeping it 100 was, I've learned to live this life without you around.
Yeah.
Because and again, while I'm working, I'm trying to take care of this. I'm building a business, and it's like all these million and one excuses instead of just taking a breath and saying, what did she need?
Right.
But because I was so conditioned, because I was raised in it, my father was that type of worker. But every once in a
Hmm.
while, mom would reel him in. Hey, all right, spend some time with the
Right.
kids.
You
Spend some time,
said that, right?
So that was the second instance. The third instance was this past year, and this is when I was like, all right, I need to really, because I started to kind of pump my brakes and just kind of,
Hmm.
breathe a little bit after last summer and was like, I'm gonna spend some time at home and stuff like that. The third time was when I think I told you and Marissa this is when I wound up in the emergency room,
Right.
and I started getting all these different conditions like acid reflux and back pain and all these things started to come up, and it's like you're overworking your body, and it was then when I realized like I'm not young anymore. So I say that to say I'll be 40 in less than a month.
Hmm.
It just clicked a year ago.
Right.
Don't do that.
Exactly. No,
like
say it. Don't do
I'm
that.
about,
That's what
like
we don't want you to do.
I missed so much
Right.
early. Like I remember my friends going on trips to like All-Star weekend, and I was like, I gotta work. And my friends going away on like to Orlando, to Disney and stuff like that together. Like friends that I was hanging with quite regularly. Like I
Hmm.
gotta work, I gotta do this, I got football, I got this, I got that. I didn't take moments to breathe.
That's good.
And I'm telling you, this is my advice. And again, I got a whole business. I coach football and I do a lot of other things, but I know when to say I need to take a day or two to relax. I know that now. So my advice to any and everybody watching this, don't do that. Don't wait until you get to that point where you're like, I missed so much. Now I need to slow down.
Right. And
Enjoy the fruits now.
right. Now, your transparency is definitely refreshing, and that's part of it. If we haven't learned anything, especially in these last few years, so it's really good to even hear you say that two of those moments actually happened just within these last few years when
Mhm.
we've all done what we thought, where we were all supposed to, like in a way, be sheltered in place, as the saying would go. And we didn't have anything to do, so we thought but to kind of focus in on family and other things. But that's not what a lot of people were doing. When you talk about the structure of the family, you're talking about, even it wasn't just a statistic. I did know a lot of people that ended up getting divorced because if you had this shift and you're still not making the priority the family that you were now technically stuck with, then what else was there? Think about it.
Well,
Who
you showed them their value when you refused to
exactly
do it, and when
right?
you listen, and from experience, and God has moved me into being a person that's willing to be transparent to help the next
Right.
person
That's
through
right.
my experiences, and so I'll say this,
Hmm.
um, it's when you're in the other room across the hall and you can't be near your significant other where the light bulb really goes off, and when
Exactly.
they say they don't want you anymore.
Hmm.
Like I'm keeping it all the way real. Like that's
Right.
just what I'm always gonna do. And
Right.
that's when if the light bulb don't go off then, and then you are sitting there trying to figure out ways to blame them.
Hmm.
No. And I'm saying this to anybody that's young watching this, don't get to that point in your life where
Right.
the people that care the most about you no longer want you around because they've navigated life without you.
All this time, unfortunately, right? Mhm.
We in this culture of now is everybody trying to go get the bag, everybody trying to chase the bag. There's nothing wrong with wanting to pursue success. Hear me clearly. There's nothing wrong with wanting to pursue success. However, when there's a difference between pursuing success and pursuing money.
That's right.
Success is tied to your purpose. Money is tied to your ego and arrogance. So when you're chasing money, you are erasing things that are supposed to be being done
That's right.
because you're spending more time worrying about what you could gain rather than what you're supposed to be doing. When in actuality, here's how funny God works. When in actuality, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the gains come naturally.
They really do. Exactly.
So if you're chasing, and half the people that are doing it are chasing it at jobs they hate. So you sacrificing your family for a job that don't care whether you tomorrow when you don't wake up, 2 days later they posting the job on the site anyway.
We've been talking about that this year, you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
why sacrifice the balance of your home
Right.
for that? Pursue success. Don't pursue money.
Mhm.
Success brings money. Success brings
Naturally.
notoriety naturally because your
Naturally.
purpose is tied, your success is tied to your purpose. So when
Mhm.
you pursue that, but here's the thing, way God works. When you start pursuing that, then the balance comes. Because
Mhm.
God, you can hear God say, I got it. Relax.
Right.
So
That's
you
when you know you're
naturally
in
sit
order.
down. That's when you know you're in order. When you hear
That's
God say,
right.
sit down, I got this. You all right.
Right. Yes, go to sleep and rest. I'll
Yes,
be here
rest.
again tomorrow helping you fulfill not only your purpose but your promise.
And so what you have to do is like we have I do leadership training at our
Mhm.
school for our athletes. And our quarterback on our team, I talked to him, like him and I, we, and a few kids, we text and talk
Mhm.
leadership stuff. And I tell them, you have to learn. I said, you have to learn to live life like you play the game. You play it one play at a time.
Mhm.
You can't be 10 years from now today.
Mhm.
You can't rewind to yesterday.
Mhm.
So live in the now, embrace the now.
Right.
Today, what can I learn from today that can make me better for tomorrow? Because one of my biggest things is outwork yesterday. But
Mhm.
do it with balance. If I'm taking care of my business like I'm supposed to do, I'm not stressed.
Right.
I'm not tripping.
Right.
Mom ain't on my head. If my room clean and my homework done, my grades are straight, mom and dad ain't on my head.
Mhm.
But if
Yeah.
you running to practice, running to this, running to that, and you losing focus at home and the trash ain't taken out and this, now you got to hear your parents fuss.
Right.
You're,
Right.
you're out of alignment.
Right. And it's never too early. I know kids hear us say it all the time, and we heard it when we were kids. When you're talking about practicing what you preach, literally, it is never too early. The same way you want that balance, you want that structure in your life. You're a teenager, you're a young adult, and you want to figure it out. You can, and we talked about this last week, you can incorporate it into the household, be a
Mhm.
part of that change, even that maybe your household needs. And no, you're not in charge. And yes, baby, even you have to work with your parents on doing things, but like what you're talking about, cleaning the room, getting your chores done, even being obedient. Remember that word, being obedient.
Whew.
This is what we have to do. You need to check in with us. There's a lot going on out here. If you're supposed to be someplace, that's not because we want to control you. That's because we need to know you're okay. You need to know we need to know you're safe. And we as adults even have to have that accountability. I saw
Yes.
something that definitely even this week, and I'm going to say the Bitmoji on it was Snoopy and Charlie Brown, but it basically said there's a lot going on out here. You always, I don't care how old you are, you need to let someone know where you are, not necessarily what you're doing. Hopefully, you're doing the right thing. Parent, child, doesn't matter, but we have to work at this together. And that's where the balance comes in because as a family, we are relying on each other. As a family, we want to do things together. As a family, we want to have long life together. You
Hmm.
know, that same, we want everyone to turn into grandparents. We want people to live to 90 or 100 years old. It can happen, but it starts at a foundational time right now where even if things aren't working, and I think that's what we've been talking about already this month. If things aren't working, it is never too late to shift and try to get that balance back. And that's
It's
really
never too
important.
late. And I think where God had to show me was that you're not so far gone
That's right.
to where you can't recover. It's the will to want to recover. So one of the
Mm.
things that I've gotten better with now is utilizing my calendar.
Yes, yes. Already
Utilizing
putting it
my
on.
calendar.
Yes,
Listen,
yes.
utilize. I have now. I do have to get one of the planner things that I can write it in, but I
Yeah.
use my Google Calendar. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I got wise with is my business partner. She has access to my Google Calendar. So
Mm-hmm.
my appointments and things when they come up, she like, hey, you got a doctor's appointment on Wednesday.
That's right.
Hey, you got this on Wednesday. You got Brianna's karate class on this day, which is my daughter. You got Brianna's karate class
Mm.
on this day because I know me. I'll double book myself.
Right. And and cancel the important thing, which is the doctor's appointment. Keep your
Right.
health together. Right.
And I did that, and that's the thing
Mm-hmm.
where like barely going to the doctor to the point where I was like,
Yes.
I go to the doctor to get my medication refill. That's it.
Yes.
Now it's like, all right, well now I need to start working. I got to get my blood work done. I got to get this checked out. I got to make sure my
Mm-hmm.
A1C is straight. Like it's different. So I'm more active now. Those things that I took for granted early,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's scheduled. My time to
That's
walk in
right.
the morning is scheduled. If I choose to eat breakfast or if I choose to make a smoothie, there's a schedule there for that. The
Right.
crazy thing, and this is to the people who are success driven or money driven.
Mm-hmm.
You look up all the wealthiest people in the world, they all
Mm.
follow a schedule.
They
All follow a
do.
schedule.
Yes. Had some coaching on that just this past weekend. So you have to have a regimen.
And
And
they
have
and
already
they don't
learned.
deviate from it.
No.
It's the
Success.
same
It,
schedule every day. It may
mm-hmm.
be the same breakfast every day. I read somewhere they said Nick Saban, he eats the
Mm-hmm.
same breakfast every morning. He eats two oatmeal cream pies and coffee. That's his breakfast every morning.
Wow. I
We're
don't know if
talking
we're
about
recommending that, but
I'm
okay.
not
Yeah.
recommending that, but
No,
hey,
that's not.
if it gives me a national championship, I'll eat it too.
We are, that's our disclaimer. We're not recommending that.
but
Exactly.
but the
Yeah.
system works because he's
Right.
like, well, if I and when you think about it, when I talk to people who are business owners and things like,
Mm-hmm.
they say because it's less stuff I have to worry about.
Yes.
I don't
Exactly.
have to worry about what I'm eating for breakfast because it's the same thing every day. I don't
That's
have to worry about what I'm wearing because it's the same thing every day. I just
yeah.
different color. It might be a different color, but I know I'm wearing a polo and khaki.
Right. High school
You,
uniforms, grade school uniforms.
you see what I'm
I
saying? So
yeah.
where we take that type of stuff for granted,
Right.
and this is not to be funny, but
Mm-hmm.
other cultures
Yeah.
have become great because of it.
Yeah. Right. The
Systems,
uniformity. Mm-hmm. That's
uniformity, systems. And I'm not saying become a robot, but what I'm saying is balance is created with systems.
yeah.
Balance is created with scheduling. You want to make it to the next level of your life. That's young people, grown people,
That's
whoever. Create a system for yourself that
right.
works. So you don't have to worry about the next thing because everything is in order.
That's right.
That's
Exactly.
balance.
Yep. That's right. You said it. I'm glad you even went back seriously old school. We're talking about kids, but we know what we're talking about, being grown, and we're never as grown as we think we are.
No,
Even
not at all.
even all of us grown people. So yeah, no, that's important. And we're talking about this balance thing. We're talking about how important our families are. It's like August again, like we just said, and it's flying by. And this is a good time. Our season's going to change. If I'm not mistaken, I was even reminded today that I think today, August 10th, is when it's going to start shifting back, that the day is going to get shorter
Yep.
again. and it's today. So I don't know if that's a full moon thing or something. Didn't even have the time to look it up. But, the shift is already coming with or without us. The balance is going to demand that it take over, or life is going to take over. It's going to take over in our health. It's going to take over in our strength, that natural strength we have. And it's definitely going to take over in the joy that we're supposed to have. But if we're going to let life take us down and wear us out and burn us out, that's the problem. But
And you
now
can't
it's time
make
for change.
excuses when it does,
Exactly.
because you didn't do what you needed to do to balance it out and make sure it didn't. So when things get rough and you get frustrated and life gets a little difficult, you want to try to figure out what
Right.
excuses can you make. There are
Right.
none. There are
Exactly.
none. The only thing that you can do is own where you dropped the ball
Hmm.
and move on.
That's right. I did a little travel this week, and for the first time, I'm realizing, and remember, Marisa talked about this not too long ago when she was traveling. I really actually experienced jet lag for the first time in a really long time. And it's very real, because I literally fell asleep yesterday when I was supposed to be doing something else and totally confused when I woke up. But sat there, got it together, got a good night's sleep. I'm going to start again. We're not going to wear out. We know we have to run. Like you said, coach, this is our season. We're the teachers and we're the coaches, and it's time for us. We're about to retreat. We're going to be talking in faculty. We're going to be talking in staff, and we need to know. And, I always try to drop a little bit of homework at the end of our programs. We need to know what we need to be doing to balance. And maybe as a student or a young person, tell us back, what can we do to help you balance out? But at the same time, if you see something in an adult that might help them, share it,
Yeah,
because we're never too old to learn.
we ain't got it all together.
We
As
get it
much
together.
as many people, as much as many of them try to play that role, we ain't got it all together. And we
Not at
need
all.
young people to we need sometimes respectfully, young people,
Yes. Yes.
respectfully. I say that a lot to my kids. It's a way to say everything.
Everything.
Um,
Yes.
Respectfully, you can respectfully say, hey, can you try, you should try doing it this way because this
Right.
helps us be better. We
Hmm.
understand this type of teaching.
Right. Right.
Cool. You know what I'm saying? So we need the help too. But again,
Hmm.
respectfully,
That's it.
don't be yelling out in the middle of the class. You don't know how to teach. That ain't it.
Wow. Yeah.
That ain't
Right.
it.
So, we're going to go back to everything in decency and order, because that's what the word says we're going to do. We're
Hmm.
going to be in decency and order. And again, even as adults, we need to be reminded sometimes as well. So, any parting words of balance, coach, as by the time we get back together again, it'll be literally a little bit past the middle of August.
Hmm.
So, halfway over, what can we look forward to? How can we balance this out? What are we going to do between now and next time we meet everyone? How are we
I'm
going to
going.
balance
I'm gonna say this, and this is for me, and I hope anybody
it?
that's watching takes this.
Right.
Not only will I utilize my Google Calendar, but I'm going to structure out a daily
Yeah,
schedule
that's right.
regimen, and I'm going to follow it from.
Hmm.
I'm going to follow it from now on. I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna be honest. I'm human.
Right.
I'm going to follow it for the remainder of the month and
That's
lead it into September, so that
right. Yes.
balance can naturally come into play.
Right.
And I,
Absolutely.
I I challenge everyone to set a schedule. Parents, if you're watching, set a schedule for your kids.
Hmm.
Don't go off of the seat of your pants and just think that they no. Set a schedule. My daughter, when she's with me, she has a schedule.
That's right.
Lunch, dinner, bedtime.
That's right.
It's her day is structured. Do
Hmm.
that. Structure
Yeah,
your kids.
that's right.
You set the structure and the balance in their life. So 10 years from now, they don't look back and say, "I don't know how to balance everything." You teach them how to balance.
That's important. And I appreciate that because I'm being reminded as well. Got the new planner, and it's starting in August on purpose because it is a teacher's planner, but being really regimented about, you need to get that balance. You need to focus out. And part of that is, for me, it is that balance of getting the rest that's required,
Yeah,
because the
you
rest
you
of the
need to
things
rest.
are going to happen. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Get you some rest. That's
Get
my advice for you. So
exactly.
next
Get some
week, I
rest.
don't want to hear about you. Listen, Marissa
Falling
should be
asleep.
Marissa should be immune to jet lag by now, but but because she always gone.
She always go.
So,
Yeah,
but
but we
I
got it.
think you
Got
next
this.
week, make sure you get you some rest, and we'll be back to see y'all next week to kind of keep going
Definitely.
about this balance thing. And I think
Definitely.
next week we should look into um let's look at balancing to get to the next level.
I like that. That's the challenge. There you go. Homework assignment number 2. Share it
Hmm.
with us and say it again, coach, one more time.
Ba- Balancing to get to the next level.
Love it. Already in on the process and on the move for that. So I'm loving it. So until next time, we will see you next week. And we thank you for joining us on BTG, Bridging the Gap, strategizing student success, and definitely getting some of that help as adults as well. So
Yes,
we
sir.
are out.
Have a great one.